Hi, my name is Alex and I welcome you to today's video. Biomutant was released in 2021 to huge hype which the game ultimately failed to live up to. With some delay, the action game has now also made it to the Nintendo Switch. So here's my personal opinion on the game in general, as well as the technical implementation on the Switch version. Biomutant tells its story on several levels. On the one hand, there is the fate of the entire world, which has been hit by a bio, nuclear and climate catastrophe due to the machinations of the evil Toxanol Corporation. Unfortunately, Biomutant never goes particularly far with that theme. The narrator gets bogged down in moralistic platitudes while vague allusions are made to the state of the world and the possibility of fleeing from it on an arc. Even this exciting topic is ultimately only touched on. A second narrative level deals with the specific fate of my character. Superficially, it is about a traumatic event in childhood, revenge for the death of the mother, and the confrontation with the monster Lupa Lupin, which ends terribly uninspired. However, the character's maturation into the long-awaited savior, who is talked about in every corner of the game world, happens far too quickly. A relationship with the world and its inhabitants is barely established. Fighting for a good cause is proclaimed but never lived, and the positive effects of my actions are not apparent. This also includes allying with one of the several tribes and fighting others. Although you are approached by almost every important story character during the course of the game, there is no development here either. Because the anthropomorphic characters in the world only mumble short, incomprehensible snippets of sentences in various pseudo-languages, a narrator takes over all the narration and dialogue. On the one hand, he comments on what is happening while riding around in the world, trading or finding prey. On the other hand, the same voice also narrates all conversations, which looks like this in practice.
He wants to thank you for taking his side against the scavengers.
You start a conversation, for example with the auto mechanic Glibbo, then you briefly hear the croaking sounds of a fantasy language, but the narrator immediately starts translating what has been said. This is annoying and tiring even after a short time. After a very fragmented, weakly designed start full of flashbacks and tutorials, Biomutant sends the player into a freely accessible open world. Although there are areas that will kill poorly equipped newcomers within a minute due to heat, radioactivity or cold, the entire landscape with its plains, rivers, mountains, forests, etc. is generally accessible. In terms of size, the land to be traveled can hardly keep up with any current open world game, but that's not a bad thing at all. There is still enough space, enough enemies, completely different habitats and a variety of quests. There are plenty of smaller quests, especially in villages and outposts. Some of them sound interesting, but the majority turn out to be tedious quests with no story content. When fighting the titular mutants, you have several options. In battles you can rely on long-range weapons like rifles, shotguns or machine guns with the expected advantages, while melee options include swords or wrenches. Both playstyles can be enhanced using the variety of unlockable psi abilities and bio powers. The best part of the game is the shooting. Some of the guns pack a real punch and feature a variety of sound effects. The melee combat is less well done. The hit feedback with weapons like the mace leaves a lot to be desired, and blocking is hardly usable due to the often hectic combat scenarios. Firstly, because many effects block your view, and secondly, because you are usually hit by projectiles at the same time. From a technical point of view, I have nothing but praise for the developers. Of course, as a Switch player you get the worst version of the game, with frame drops below 30 frames per second as well as muddy textures and lower resolutions. But I'm still surprised at how well done the port is, especially in handheld mode. Here many drawbacks are masked and you get a good overall package, which I can only recommend to every Switch player. The only thing that bothered me visually in the more open areas were the very low resolution ground textures. Otherwise, the developers around Saber Interactive have done a good job. At the time, Biomutant was somewhat underwhelming, as many players expected a AAA game, which it never was. With this knowledge, some negative points such as the boring presentation of the story, the annoying dialogues or the weak melee gameplay are less important. So if you go in with lower expectations, you will experience a nice little open world game, which impresses above all with its world and funny character designs. For these reasons I rate Biomutant for the Nintendo Switch a 7 out of 10. Thanks for watching. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to leave them below. If you liked it, we would be very happy about a like and a subscription, or if you're interested in getting early access to our future reviews, feel free to visit our Patreon page.
Closed doors, I'm a fool for your love.